Today we are going to look at blood and blood components. So what is blood? Blood is a body fluid not only in human beings but other animals too that delivers necessary substances such as nutrients and oxygen to the cells and transport metabolic waste products away from the same cells. Blood is considered as a connective tissue because it has a matrix. The living cell types are the red blood cells, also called erythrocytes, and white blood cells, also called leukocytes. The fluid portion of our whole blood is the matrix, also referred to as plasma. All cells are embedded in blood plasma. Blood is also a fluid of life. It transports oxygen from our lung tissues and carbon dioxide from other body tissues to the lungs. Blood is the fluid of our growth, transporting nourishment from our digestion and hormones from glands throughout the body. Because it contains living cells, blood is life. That aside, we want to look at the components of our blood or blood components. Blood makes up to 8% of our body weight, while other fluids and tissues make up 92% of the body's weight. Now let's look at blood as a whole. Whole blood is simply our blood as it flows in our bodies, with none of its components separated or removed. It contains the liquid fraction of our blood, which is the plasma, as well as cellular elements. After centrifugation, a procedure used to produce blood components from our whole blood, we can see different distinct layers. It separates the constituents of different masses with the help of a centrifugal force. A faster centrifugation of our whole blood aims to separate red blood cells from the plasma. As the blood is separated, the heavier red cells sink to the bottom of the centrifuge tube, which is 45% of our total blood. We also call this hematocrit. A clear solution of our blood plasma in the upper phase, which can be separated into its own fractions, makes about 55% of our total blood. The buffy coat, which is a thin layer of leukocytes, also known as white blood cells, mixed with the platelets, also referred to as thrombocytes in the middle, make up less than 1% of our total blood. Platelets, white blood cells, and red blood cells are all collectively referred to as formed elements. Let's see composition of these blood constituents by weight. Beginning with plasma. Plasma is made up of proteins, which makes up 7% of plasma fluid. Water, which makes up about 91% of plasma fluid, and other solutes, which make about 2% of plasma fluid. In terms of proteins, we have different types of plasma proteins, such as albumins, which make up about 57% of plasma proteins. It is produced in the liver and then enters bloodstream, where it is carried to other parts of the body. The functions are keep fluid from leaking out of the bloodstream and carrying substances like hormones, enzymes, and vitamins in the body. Globulins at 38% are the second type of plasma proteins, are also made in your liver by the immune system, helping maintaining colloidal pressure, liver function, and blood clotting, and even fighting infection. That type of plasma protein is fibrinogen at 4%. It's a plasma protein from which fibrin is produced by the action of enzyme thrombin. The major physiological function of fibrinogen is the formation of fibrin that binds together platelets and some plasma proteins in a hemostatic plug. In a pathological situation, the network entraps large numbers of erythrocytes and leukocytes, forming a thrombus that may occlude a blood vessel. And the last one at 1% is prothrombin, a protein present in blood plasma, converted into active thrombin during coagulation. It is also made by the liver. Prothrombin time is one way of measuring how long it takes blood to form a clot. It's measured in seconds. Other solutes, which are components of plasma, make 2% of plasma fluid, and they include ions, nutrients, waste products, gases, and regulatory substances such as erythropoietin that stimulates production of red blood cells, and cytokines that stimulates production of white blood cells. Platelets, part of formed elements, less than 1%. These are small, colorless, disc-shaped cell fragments without a nucleus, are also called thrombocytes. They form clots and stop bleeding. They are made in our bones, in the bone marrow. Let's move on to leukocytes. They form less than 1% of our whole blood, and examples are neutrophils, which form 60 to 70% of our leukocytes. It's an immune cell, one of the first cell type to travel to the site of infection. They help to fight infection by ingesting microorganisms. It's a type of granulocyte, which means has secreted granules in its cytoplasm, and is also a phagocyte. Lymphocyte making up 20% to 25%. They include natural killer cells, T cells and B cells. Main type of cells found in lymph, hence the name lymphocyte. B cells produce antibodies, Y-shaped protein molecules that can latch and destroy invading viruses and bacteria. They are specific to each pathogen and are able to latch on the surface of an invading cell and mark it for destruction by other immune cells. T cells, on the other hand, focuses on specific foreign particles rather than generally attacking antigens. T cells circulate until they encounter the specific antigen. Lymphocytes generate adaptive immune response and develop memory compartments for future responses. Monocytes make about 3% to 8% of leukocytes. These are large type of leukocytes and can differentiate into macrophages and conventional dendritic cells. They also influence the process of adaptive immunity. They fight certain infections and help other white blood cells remove dead or damaged cells and fight cancer cells. Eosinophils, 2% to 4% of leukocytes. These are cells that are deployed to inflamed areas, trapping substances, killing cells, anti-parasitic and bactericidal activity, participating in immediate allergic reactions and modulating inflammatory responses. Basophils, 0.5% to 1%. Basophils are responsible for fighting fungal and bacterial infections and viruses. They are granulocytes, which means they release granules of enzymes to fight against harmful bacteria and germs. I have a mnemonic that will help you remember white blood cell count, which goes like this: never let monkey eat banana, where never stands for neutrophils, let for lymphocytes, monkey for monocytes, and eat for eosinophils, and lastly B or bananas for basophils. Let's finish with the red blood cells, also called erythrocytes, also referred to as red cells or red blood corpuscles. Hematids and erythroid cells are principal means of delivering oxygen to the body tissues via blood flow through the circulatory system. They make the return trip, taking carbon dioxide back to our lungs to be exhaled.